And it's not instant gratification. Like, I think taking things away and that threat, it feels like you've done something, right? Like you've handled it. But in the end, if you're doing that over and over and over again, clearly you're handling nothing.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 185. Today, we're talking about how to have more responsible kids with Casey O'Rourke. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children for a lifetime. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm creator of the Mindful Parenting membership, and I'm the author of the upcoming new book, Raising Good Humans. Oh my God, I have so many amazing things to tell you about this week, along with this amazing episode. I don't know where to start. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, 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 welcome to familiar listeners who've been in this tribe, and welcome to you if you are brand new. Special welcome to you. So in just a moment, I am going to be sitting down with Casey O'Rourke, and she is another podcast host of the Joyful Courage podcast and positive discipline trainer. And she supports parents in celebrating the opportunity to grow on the parenting journey, and two kids who teach her every day. And we're going to be talking about what happens, when a parenting coach of teens looks back on her early years. So what would you change, etc. And how do we create responsible kids? And you'll hear Casey share her early parenting regrets and her real world wisdom about how to handle our relationships with children at every age. So I want you to listen for how positive parenting is not an instant gratification journey. It really is about relationships in the long haul. And rather than control or letting go, we should really be giving responsibility to our kids. And we want to also think about this idea and listen for this idea that privilege without responsibility is entitlement. So a lot of really meaty stuff for you to mull over in this episode, absolutely. And all of the things I have to tell you about, though. First of all, you can now buy Raising Good Humans. You can pre-order it, and we are going to be having a special pre-order event for people who pre-order. I have book bonuses up for pre-order, and you can find that all on mindfulmamamentor.com right now. You can register for your book bonuses just on the tab book on mindfulmamamentor.com. So I'm so excited about that. That will take you to the Raising Good Humans raisinggoodhumansbook.com page. So I'm so excited about that. So for those of you who've been cheering me on and have been asking about the book, and so I'm finally excited to let you know that there's something happening. It's very exciting. And I'm also looking for the opportunity to share the book and do talks and book signings and things like that. So if you would like me to come to where you are, come to your parents group, your mom's group, let me know. Reach out to me at hunter@mindfulmamamentor.com, and we can talk about making that happen. So cool and exciting. And then the other super exciting thing is that right now, this week, the Mindful Parenting free training is happening. And if you are listening right when this comes out, you can still join us. And you can join us at mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. And it is super exciting because we have already been talking about why your kids don't listen to you. And if you're listening right when this comes out, you'll probably be able to catch the recording of that. And we are also, on the day this comes out, we are going to be talking about the instincts, the parenting instincts, what we think of as instincts that lead us astray. And tomorrow we are going to be talking about the orange theory of parenting. What is that, Hunter? I will let you know when you join the training. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about how to tame our tempers and create cooperative children. So I'm so excited. We have upgraded this whole free training, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff. I have new slides and worksheets and all kinds of things to make it even better for you. So I hope you'll join us, and it's happening right now. And as this free training wraps up, we are going to be I'm opening the Mindful Parenting membership for the first time. And I'm so excited about this because it just feels so in alignment with everything I'm doing, because I know that the more people get this, the better it is. And the membership is really a way for you to not only learn about how to deal with your biological stress response, so you can access all that good learning, but also what to say and exactly what to say to your kids to kind of create these amazing relationships over time. It has all of that, but also continued support in how to implement that. And I'm going to be getting on calls live every month. I'm going to be having some surprise evening calls for those of you who are working during the day. And it's very exciting. So all kinds of great stuff is happening with that. And this will be the only time ever that you can join at the founding members price. So it's only going to be open for a week. I hope you check it out. It's at mindfulparentingcourse.com. So exciting. So check everything out. I hope to connect with you real time live this week. And that's at mindfulparentingcourse.com. All right, now on to this awesome interview with Casey O'Rourke. Casey, thanks so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for you to be here too. We have been podcasting around in sort of the very similar parenting space. And so I'm so excited that we finally get to connect and talk to each other. And I've already introduced you, so we know you've got the Joyful Courage podcast. But this, I want to kind of dive in first to your parenting experience, and you had an education background. So kind of similar to me, I thought when I thought, oh, I'm going to be having this baby. I've been meditating for 2 years. I'm just going to be great at this because I'm going to be so calm and it's going to be awesome. You had a similar thing going on with your education background when you got into parenting, right?
I did. Oh yeah. I was very much I am so lucky that I have so much knowledge about children. This is going to be so easy. And that was not the case.
No. So when did it hit you? When did you hit the wall?
Yeah. Well, I think one child, right, having my first, I was also surrounded by some really cool moms that were a few years ahead of me who turned me on to attachment parenting and just really expanded my understanding of what was possible and how to be in relationship with babies. I grew up in Southern California, and I did not see people breastfeeding. I did not see people baby wearing. Everybody went to the hospital to have their babies, and all of those things are fine and a choice. But I was in this community where there were all these other options, and they were, smart, educated decisions. And so I really went into the first couple of years of parenting, really appreciating attachment parenting, probably a little hyper focused on it. But, my daughter nursed on demand, and she was in the sling all the time. She slept with us. That worked for both my husband and I. Yeah, so I was kind of the poster child for that.
Can I ask, so now I also practice baby wearing and nursing all the time and things like that, and actually slept with my daughter for a long time, but I have a beef with attachment parenting in that I feel like it's so, especially some of the books by the Sears are so kind of heavy on the mom. It's all
Oh, yeah.
mom, this, whereas I really do think that kids create healthy great attachments with all their caregivers. And there can
Totally.
be a lot of different caregivers that have this healthy attachment, but moms tend to feel like, oh my God, it has to be me and I have to do everything and I can never leave my child for like 5 hours to go out with my friends, God forbid, overnight to go see a relative. And that's and that really frustrates me. And also that idea that it kind of like leans towards a self-sacrificing mom thing. Like you should sleep with your child, even if you're not getting any sleep and it's driving you like crazy because you're not getting any sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Totally. 100%. I totally, yes. And it's interesting when I think back to those years because like I didn't question it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my husband at the time was a journeyman tree trimmer. So he was working long days and working really hard. And when he came home, man, he was all over that baby. But I was the one with the boobs, and I was the one that had time in the day to nap. So I was the nighttime parent as well. And I have a funny story about that in a little bit, but yeah, yes. And looking back, would I do things differently? Yeah. I'm curious about resiliency and the opportunities for resiliency that I perhaps didn't allow my child because I was so attentive. And I'm not, and I'm not talking about the total extreme of, let them cry for 4 hours so they teach themselves to go to sleep. I think there's a lot of space in the middle that I just was uneducated, unaware of. And I was okay with all of it. Like I was rolling with it and it was, quote, working for me, meaning like I didn't mind carrying my baby all the time. I didn't mind that I couldn't go out. I just brought my baby with me. Plus, when I did go anywhere for any length of time, she lost. Can we swear on this podcast?
We try not to.
Okay. She lost her what. Anytime I was gone. And so that just became like, well, you know what? There's going to be time in the future where I'll get away. And right now I just get to be with her. And like in my mind, during that period of time, it was okay. And then I had my son. And before I had my son, I had read about the mama bear tendency to push the older child away when you have a second child. And I remember reading that and being like, there's no way that could happen. I just couldn't in any reality, in any universe, imagine pushing my older child away. And then I had my second baby and I was like so in love with him. And my second, and Rowan was almost 3. She was like a couple months shy of 3 when I had my son Ian, and she became a giant. And like, if I'm being completely honest and transparent, she became a nuisance. And all I wanted to do was really like take care of this brand new baby. And here she was, and she needed me and she wanted to be near me. And my instinct, it makes me emotional. I write about this in my book and talk about it a lot, but my instinct was to push her away. And, not all the time, not like 24/7, but I have some really vivid memory of, like you're nursing the baby to sleep, because that's what I did. Another thing I would try to do better. Nursing the baby to sleep. And here's my little, like almost 3-year-old poking her head in. And then the silent eyes and the pointing finger, like, you can't see me because I'm talking about like that, like pointing, like, no, don't come in here. Like, get out.
Sending her like the evil eyes, like, oh.
Yeah. And I just remember her like seeing me do that and slowly opening the door and walking over. And the whole time I'm giving her like the silent, like, no. And she just sat down next to the bed and she was silent. And that's when things got really hard for me, is in the dynamic of going from 1 to 2. And yeah, it was like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And I was being hurtful to my daughter. And as Ian got older and more sturdy, she was not always super nice to him. And then I would respond with, you can't do that. Don't do that. You're going to hurt the baby. And then without seeing that we were in a cycle, which when that was right around the time that I found positive discipline and went to a training. and realize like, oh, we're in a cycle and I get to be the one, I can interrupt it. I can step out of it. I can change this. And that's when I started practicing the tools and strategies and ways of being that are positive discipline. And it really shifted the climate in our home dramatically. And it started with me. So,
are you frustrated with parenting? Do you want to practice conscious, compassionate parenting, but you don't know how? It's not easy, and there's no roadmap for this. Until now. I'm Hunter Clark-Fields, creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I know how frustrating it is because I've been there. I struggled as a young mom, and when I found myself yelling and triggered by my child, I knew there had to be a better way, and there is. Mindful parenting is different from other parenting trainings. They don't tell you that all of that good advice is as good as useless when our internal stress response is triggered. Mindful parenting teaches you research-based tools and practices to reduce your stress response so that you can respond rather than react. And it teaches you exactly what to say so that you can create willing cooperation from your child. You can learn more and enroll at mindfulparentingcourse.com, and you can join us for a free live training coming up soon where you'll learn why your kids don't listen to you, how your brain undermines your parenting, and how to create cooperative kids without losing your temper. Sign up now at mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. I'll see you there. Yeah.
That's when it got hard.
Yeah. No, it's great because I love those sharing those stories, because until we kind of share those stories, are like, that judging mind comes in and says, oh, I'm, often for the listener, right? Like, it's like, I'm this because I had this like crappy moment with my kid and I did this thing and I'm a terrible person. We tend to be so hard on ourselves, and that judgment and that criticism inside comes out, and it really can be cacophonous, and it can really kind of be a downward spiral. But as we start to just speak up and as we start to share our stories, then these challenges, instead of like pushing us into the cycle of downward cycle of self-judgment and shaming, it really can say, oh, okay, then this is, very much so for you, as this learning was this like, oh, this challenge is my teacher. This challenge is teaching me a whole lot, and it drove you to learn a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, I was teaching parenting as I was having these challenges, and then that conversation of who do I think I am right now, and but that was many years ago. My kids are now 16 and 13, and things are not perfect, and we all have our moments of flying off the handle. And instead of this conversation of who do I think I am that I work with parents, it becomes like, oh, I love that we had to navigate that, because now when I'm on the phone or on a Zoom call with a parent and they're sharing about their challenges, I get to say, I see you, I get it, I know what that feels like, and really come from a deeply authentic place. I think that, we see it all the time, like, the social media tells a very limited story, right? And I think that, like you said, it's so powerful to have someone say, I struggle too. And that's hard for me too. And especially when it's people like you and I who have a platform, because I think it's easy, even as I hear my clients say, just yesterday on a call, my client was like, oh my gosh, you just know the perfect thing to say and to do. And I say, listen, I'm really good when I'm talking about you, right? It's a whole nother practice when I'm in conversation and in relationship with one of my own kids.
Oh, so true. I just want to call myself out here too, because yes, it's so true. Like, my kids are in a place where they're not like pushing quite so many buttons for me anymore. And what I think that's wonderful about sort of the tools of, at least the sort of non-authoritarian tools, I don't want to go into all the many names of whatever, is that things do get to spiral into easier, right? They spiral easier or snowball easier rather than snowball harder. But like, yeah, I still yell at my kids sometimes. I mess up. I am in situations where I'm frustrated and I'm annoyed with them and I just want to like not be with them. All this
Yeah.
stuff happens. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And it's so, it's, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's what makes, to be there and say, to maybe not be sort of naturally amazing at it and naturally the most perfect, amazing, nurturing earth mother is actually like great because there's like no one who's like
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And if you think they are, they're lying, everyone.
They're lying to
They're
you.
liars.
So tell me about the nighttime parenting incident.
Okay. Well, I just remember when Ian was a baby, he was probably like 6 months old, and we had a Tempur-Pedic bed at the time. And my husband would sleep because he had to get up really early and he worked with like chainsaws, all day long.
Wait. So what's a Tempur-Pedic bed? Like I can
Well,
recognize the
it's
brand,
like,
but does it like move up and down or
no,
is
it's
it
like
like the
really like I can
numbers?
move around. No, it's like you can move around and the person next to you doesn't feel anything.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
So it's just kind of like crazy foam, I guess,
Yeah.
but like super on steroids. And what that means is like sitting up to hold a baby and holding the posture without leaning against something is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I remember about it. And my husband would sleep with one earplug in because he did have to sleep. Like he had a dangerous job and it was many hours a day that he worked and he had to sleep. And Ian slept with us. And like I said, he was totally down for that. Anyway, Ian would not nurse laying down.
Mm.
And it wasn't all the time,
Oh, no.
but sometimes he would not nurse unless I was sitting up. And I remember I was so irritated. It was it was like the dark of night, and silent, except for Ian. And I'm trying to get him to nurse and I'm sitting up and I can't really find good balance and I'm uncomfortable. And I look over and there's my husband and all I can see is the bright orange earplug. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly what I said to him, but it was not very lovely or nurturing or anything. But I spoke out loud to him something like, "You don't even know what I'm doing right now." I had my little pity party. And the next day, I told him, I said, "Man, I had a rough night last night. And at one point, I kind of yelled at you and you didn't know." And I said, "I just was feeling a lot of compassion for moms that, drive their car full of kids into lakes." And Ben looked at me and he goes, "Babe, you got to wake me up." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not going to go over the edge here. I just, but it was just so cute the way he was like, "Please just wake me up." So that was the funny
I have
night.
to protect my offspring.
Yeah, you're talking about driving the car into the lake. I'm like, no, 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 no. All I'm saying is I get how that path can start to open up.
You can see how that happens. I mean, I remember being so frustrated when my younger daughter was 3, so frustrated with her not listening to whatever I wanted. And I think she was like coming out of her room when it was nap time and just feeling so frustrated. And I remember grabbing her shoulders and feeling, oh my God, my hands are really tense and strong right now because I am PO'd. And just feeling like, holy moly, this is how people hurt their children. Like, this is it. There it is in me. And just, oh my, just getting that feeling of like, yeah, okay, well, I can understand that happens because it really does trigger in us. It's like it's our wiring, right? Like it's a threat. Ultimately we are coming from a good place. Like we want our children to sleep and so that they can be happy and healthy and everyone can be healthy. And we want them to cooperate with us, because we want everyone to live happy and healthy lives. And so this thing that we are trying to make happen is coming from a good place. But we still have these, this is just the wiring, right? This is just that nervous system wiring that when something really feels like a threat, even if it's our own tiny child, this is how the nervous system responds. And
Yeah.
I think it's so valuable to just say, oh man, hello, hello, nervous system. So did you talk about in your book, you talk about kind of looking at your own triggers and things like that. You've done that work of kind of looking back at your own parenting, your own childhood. What was your upbringing like as far as like what was sort of the style of parenting that you were raised with?
Well, I'm a child of divorce, so I had two households. And for the majority, up until I was in high school, I lived with my mom. And I would see my dad, it was the 80s, so like every other weekend and 2 weeks during the summer, which is so crazy, but that's what it was. And my mom was young when she had me. Well, I guess normal, 23. It feels so young. Anyway.
These days, yeah, it seems like
but she had me, and then my brother was 2 years younger than me. And she was, both deeply, deeply loving and wonderful and caring, and didn't really ever have many experiences to grow in her own self-awareness around self-regulation. So when she was triggered, it was big, and she really lost it. And I tended to be the one that got the brunt of it. And, and so that it's that 0 to 100, right? That can happen. My dad, he was way more chill, but really, really leaned on consequences and punishment. Things like, I remember when we got into trouble, we had to sit in the bathroom. And it was because it was the most boring place that there was. And so we'd sit in the bathroom, which is so weird to say out loud. When I was in high school, and
I bet you guys got into some mischief in that bathroom.
Yeah. Well, it was the guest bathrooms. There was nothing to play with.
Oh no.
And it's so funny. And then when I got older in high school and did the things that teenagers do, I would be grounded. I would get grounded for like 3 months. It wasn't like, oh, you're grounded next weekend. It was like, well, you're going to be grounded for the next 3 months. But like similar to my mom, where there was this like love, this deep love, even though the self-regulation wasn't always there. With my dad, it was these ridiculous punishments that really didn't teach me anything except for I have to get better at being sneaky.
Yeah.
But it was always coupled with what we did do during those 3 months is I would go bowling with my family, and we would go to the movies, and we would do stuff together as a family. So the relationship was there, even as the style definitely leaned more towards authoritarian. So it was an interesting, and I've come to a place, there's a lot, I write a little bit about it in the book, but it was really hard, especially the time that I moved in with my dad from my mom's. That was a really challenging time for me and for my mom, and was followed by a long period, like a 10-year period of us really not having much of a relationship at all. And then coming back around in my mid-20s, and as I had my daughter, and really rebuilding what our relationship is today, which is amazing. I have an amazing relationship with my mom. And, there was a period of time where I was angry, that like, because I see the same tendency in myself, especially when the kids were younger and I was a little bit less self-aware. I could see my own gaps in self-regulation, right, with the kids. And I was like, and I could connect the dots. Like, this is how I was treated by mom, probably the way she was treated by grandma. Who knows how far back this cycle has been. And it was like, why the hell didn't my mom decide to be different? Like, I really held this, like, why wasn't she the one that said, I'm not going to treat my kids like that? And I got to this place, and it was right around the time when I started learning about being a life coach and doing some more kind of transformational work, where I realized I didn't have to be in that question anymore. And that question really didn't serve me. The question of why didn't she do the work just kept me in this place of resentment. And once I let go of that and forgave her and really recognized, like, it's because of of my relationship with her that I am so passionate about my own personal and professional work. I can see everything that we went through as a giant gift, right?
Yeah.
And exactly as it was meant to be. So as painful as a lot of it was for her and for I just feel like where we are right now is, it's all part of this bigger, longer continuum of being human.
Yeah. Yeah, like
So
your healing of these generational patterns, you did that work for all of you. You did that
yeah,
work for your children, but you also did that work for your mother and your grandparents
yeah,
and so on, right? Where that suffering was passed down the line because there's, no one has learned another way. And so what a wonderful gift to give her. And I love that you saw the sort of fruitlessness of this question. Why didn't she do this? Why didn't she do this? It's really interesting to see like how we ask those questions, right? Like I think that as we're younger, when we come into the sort of the place of parenting, we can get such a different perspective, which I think is so valuable. But like I can see that in my daughter. You could probably see it in your kids too. This just very natural, innate tendency as we're developing our sense of a separate self and a unique individual person, as they grow up, the sense of like a defensiveness that comes of like always blaming the other, right? And it's like interesting to be in this place of like, okay, well, I'm doing this work of trying to soften the edges of my separate sense of self and not listen to that voice of the ego for that dictate for every action. And my daughter's in this place of like developing that and blaming the others for all of the things. And it's so, in some ways, it's like incredibly frustrating to
it's
watch, but
so
it's part of
irritating.
the cycle, right?
Totally. And there's nothing we can do or say to have them skip that.
No,
You
we
know?
want them to yet.
How old is your daughter?
12.
Okay. So my daughter is 16, and I just have to share this because the year that I wrote the book last year, when I was writing the book, I was living through the hardest, I think, parenting year that I've had, because my daughter was having a really hard time. And in high school, freshman year, all the things showed up, all of them. And I was like, coming back to that conversation of, oh my gosh, who am I to be working with parents? Like, and also clearly positive discipline doesn't work because look at my teenager being a teenager. Anyway, I lived through that. But really what I want to talk about is, so yes, so much blame and so much individuation and so much I am not you, like the push away was so intense. And this year has been so cool as she's discovered things like she read the Celestine Prophecy.
Oh, I loved that book.
I know. It was like my first like new agey book. And she's like, my brother, I didn't tell her about it. My brother told her about it. And she's getting into crystals. And like she asked me if I would order. She's like, will you order this book, Law of Attraction by Abraham Hicks? I was like, oh, sure. I'll get that book for you. And I'm dying on the inside, like, yes, yes, yes. Because
Don't say anything else.
I know, don't
say
get too
anything
excited.
else.
To me, like my biggest dream for my kids is for them to come to a place of recognizing that they are in the design. They are the designers of their life, and that, like, to me, above all else, if we can land in that place, just everything opens up. And so for her, like just thinking about the 12-year-old versus where Rowan's at as a 16-year-old, and who knows? I mean, she's got a lot of life to live, I'm sure. But right now it's very exciting to watch her explore, positive affirmation and positive thinking and, the law of attraction and what I'm putting out and what I'm receiving and all these things that I want to just dump into her. She is exploring and interested in, not because of me,
Yeah,
But
she wouldn't
because
have if it came from you.
I know. Well, I remember saying like, "Hey, we should do yoga together sometime," and she was like, "Ugh, that's your thing." And I'm like, "Actually, it's like 3 billion people on the planet's thing. It is not my thing, but okay, but it's just been such an interesting and fascinating,
Yeah.
crazy loop-de-loop whirlwind of an experience for sure. And
Yeah.
awesome.
So when you're in that place of last year of questioning whether, positive discipline, works or not, are you willing to like share some of kind of what was happening and what now you can maybe see from retrospect about that time?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, positive discipline as a program, it's a
Mhm.
thing, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
There's a big umbrella of positive parenting, but positive discipline is an actual like program. And it's based in the work of Alfred Adler. And his work is that behavior is motivated by the needs of belonging and significance, which is different than a lot of us, and even the way kind of society is set up, which is we manipulate behavior through consequences and rewards.
Yeah.
So, here I am, and I've raised these kids with from a different lens. And then we get to high school, and things start to go sideways. And 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 I think the first thing looking back is realizing that the messiness of the teen years is not an indication of whether or not you're doing parenting right.
Maybe you should just
Sorry.
say that one more time. I think it's
The messiness of the teen years is not an indication of whether or not you're getting parenting right.
Yeah.
And right, I'm putting air quotes. And that's like huge. And, I think we, especially those of us that have found our rhythm as far as the gentle, peaceful, nurturing, whatever you want to call it, parenting style, we kind of set ourselves up thinking like, the teen years aren't going to be that bad, or the teen years will just be so beautiful. And we'll probably not have to deal with like pot smoking and vaping and sex and drugs and blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God,
And
you're reading that hopeful part of my mind.
yeah, sorry about
Like,
that, Hunter.
crossing my fingers.
Spoiler. And when those things show up, however they show up, it's about it's not about your parenting. It's about all of the things that happen to the teen brain and individuation and all the things. So as in my experience, as I'm like, oh my God, because things were happening and I was like, we got to lock it down. My instinct is I got to lock it down. But she was already saying things like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to be in this family. Like she was so clearly hurting. And I knew that there wasn't really, in my way back in my mind, I always knew that relationship was the key to everything. And we were in this period of time where relationship, like she was really rejecting relationship. And so I knew that any kind of extreme, like I'm going to take her phone or I'm going to do this or I'm going to do this to her was only going to create more suffering in our relationship and wasn't even really going to get to whatever the hell was going on. And so I just kept coming back for more relationship and it was really hard and I was really scared and I questioned myself but I did have glimmers throughout the year like, okay, we're okay. Even as she was angry and pushing me away, there was also some opening where she would let me in and she was still like talking to me and telling me about the things she was doing. And then she'd like slam the door and I'm like, and we think we want this open, honest relationship with our kids where they tell us things. And let me tell you, that is not an easy space to hold.
I bet. Especially because you have no way of respond. Like if there's the door right after.
Right. Or, well, there's that. Or it's just like, I have to tell you something. Here it is. And I'm like, all I have is, well, tell me more about that. That's my go-to because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to hold this. And also being really honest with her about that. Just like, wow, I can tell that you're hurting and I want to be available to you. And so tell me what you need. And a lot of times she didn't know what she needed. And so then it would just be like, okay, well, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a matter of having to witness,
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to fix it, which was
Mm-hmm.
just like the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, and then it, we got to the end of the year of holding space and then at the end of the year, I think that because I didn't go like crazy, um, behaviorist, like consequences, because I kind of held space for her, it allowed her to feel the responsibility of what was happening in her life instead of like handing it to me and then just being mad at me for giving her consequences.
Mm.
She really got to hold it. And at the end of the year, she came home from school and said, I'm not going back. I'm going to do online school. And I
Mm.
said, I don't even know what that means. Like, I was really like, what are you talking about? And she said, nope, this is what I'm going to do. Look into it. And all summer long, she was super adamant and confident in that choice. And I let her take the lead. And she's done online school this year. And next year will be a junior here in Washington State. And she'll get to go to the community college and do her last 2 years of high school at the community college in a whole different environment. And she's excited. And this year's been a total 180. And again,
Wow.
it's been
Wow.
relationship, and me taking my fears, letting them exist, but putting them to the side and trusting and surrendering to
Yeah. Yeah.
my
Not
teenage
acting.
daughter. Yeah.
Not acting from that place of fear. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what an incredible learning. And I imagine, you write in your book that you were a quote complete control freak before you had kids.
Oh, I still kind of am.
So I imagine that this is part of, I mean, that's a lot of letting go of control there, right? To just
Oh,
step
yeah.
back from dad's, you're punished or you're grounded for X number of days, or you're not getting your
Mhm.
phone. I mean, I know, in mindful parenting, we don't teach, there's no punishment taught, because I know how it's counterproductive, right? Yeah. At the same time, like when I'm stuck and I'm frustrated and I'm in my fight, flight, or freeze zone, threats are like my go-to tool, like it just comes back so easily, and it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I have a partner who's like, honey, remember what you teach. And I'm like, oh yes, arg,
Yeah.
like go take a walk. Arg.
Yeah.
You
Or
know?
sometimes I'll say to the kids, like, I'm desperate right now. Like I just say it as it is. Like I have no tools. So give me your phone. I'm out of tools. So let's just take a break. And I think that, the whole phone conversation is a whole nother episode, right? But um there's also, privilege and responsibility, right? So
Yeah,
privilege
exactly.
without
Yeah,
responsibility is entitlement.
yeah,
So, it's not so much, and I'm sure you do a good job of this with your listeners as well. The idea isn't anything goes. The idea
yes,
isn't like, I'm going to sit here and watch you, ruin your life. It's not that. It's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to trust that that I'm here for you. And I'm going to trust that you are going to learn through the experiences of your life. And I think that is a huge leap of faith.
yeah,
And it's not instant gratification. Like, I think taking things away and that threat, it feels like you've done something, right? Like you've
yeah,
handled it. But in the end, if you're doing that over and over and over again, clearly you're handling nothing
yeah.
because the problem still exists.
Yeah, we want to create cooperation from the inside out. We wanted to create intrinsic motivation to be able to
Right.
do that, and for our child to be able to experience the real world consequences of that, whether it's whatever that is, whether it's me, like my daughter saying something mean to me and me telling her, like, when you say that to me, I feel really sad. Like that
Yeah.
hurts my feelings, for her to be authentic about it. I'm not putting on a show or whatever. Like that is a real world consequence of saying a mean thing to someone you love. And that's
Mhm.
a really valuable lesson to learn in a safe space. But I love what you said, that privilege without responsibility is entitlement, because I mean, we've got to, we get to in these extremes in our culture where it's like, we're either authoritarian or we're like, we can't set any boundaries. And like, we don't do the screen time until the cats are fed and the table is
Yeah.
set
There's
and
guidelines.
there's
Yeah.
all these things are done, right? These responsibilities are done. And those responsibilities are really, really important. So with this idea of like, knowing, knowing that these responsibilities and cultivating them are really valuable, and knowing that we have to kind of give our kids more and more responsibility, yet holding that, like, you say, you wrote in the book, like, control is an illusion. So talk to me about a little bit about the intersection between those two things. Like, you were thinking about this idea of control is an illusion. Yeah, we need to get some stuff done.
Yeah. That's such a great question. And I think about it a lot because I've been working more and more with parents of teenagers. And a lot of people that have come to me saying, like, my kid just won't help out. They won't help out around the house. And I think about my kids who are not like joyously, doing a bunch of chores every day by any means.
La 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 la
Yeah, no, that does
la
not
la la
happen.
la.
No. But they like what our routine or what our common languages in our houses. We all live together, we all help out.
Mhm.
You don't have to like it. It's fine. I don't really like doing dishes either. And when it comes time to say to them, hey, I need you to, because so it's funny, for years when they were younger, we created routines and we did family meetings every week. And we still do family meetings, not every week, but, and the kids, we'd check in on how's the we'd call it family work. And they would say, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. Okay, let's create something new for this week. What's it going to look like? And there was a lot of collaboration. We'd make signs, and now they're like, do not put up the sign. I'm like, okay, well, what's going to help you? And they keep saying, like, just tell us.
And you're like, I don't want to
Yeah.
nag
And I'm
you.
like, no, I don't want to. And then recently I've kind of let that go. And I'm like, okay, I'll tell you. And so, last night it was, hey, I need you to come down and do this. And I need you to come down and do that. And they were like, all right. I think it's a balance. Um, yeah, it's not that it's never like, I'm going to force you to do this. That's never the energy that I bring to that. It's really like, we all live together and I need your help. And here's a menu of options.
Yeah, there's always
And
a menu of options.
yeah. And I put times like do this and it'll take you 5 minutes. Do this 10 minutes. And I'll say something like, pick 30 minutes worth of stuff to do. You pick what it is. And that's been really useful. But I think it's really, and when I talk about control being an illusion, like for me, it kind of goes back to what was going on with Rowan last year and just the idea that I can't control I can't control whether or not my kids end up addicted to nicotine. I can't control whether or not what kind of job my kids have. I can't control the GPA that they end up with at the end of college or if they even go to college. I can't control those things. What I can do is I can create an environment where I'm handing this energetic responsibility to them because I think that we hold that responsibility. And that's when it feels like we've got to like put down the hammer or, make sure that they don't do XYZ. And, like I had this, do you want to hear an example?
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of rambling and talking around this really great story. So, anyone with a teenager, well, not anyone with a teenager, most people with teenagers are kind of already hearing about vaping, right? Vaping is a huge thing with teenagers. They've managed to take all the gross things away from smoking cigarettes and just left the one cool thing, which is blowing smoke, right? According to the kids. And so it's everywhere. I mean, kids are doing it in the classroom, like into their backpacks, you can't even see. So it's shown up in our house and a couple times. And I am a former smoker. And so I'm like, you don't want this. I'm like so hyper, like, don't start. And then when it comes in my path that it's happening, it's like this whole full body experience of like, oh my gosh, I have to stop this. And there was a couple little periods that I got to navigate. And then last fall, it showed up again. And I went in, got it from my daughter, walked into my room full of all my feels. And I thought back to all the things that my parents told me about smoking, which was, it was disgusting. Only losers smoked. You can't get anywhere in life if you were a smoker, like all the things, right? And guess what? In college, I started smoking and it didn't matter what they said. And so I thought about that in my room, and I thought about the fact that at the end of the day, the only person that decides whether or not my daughter is addicted to nicotine is my daughter. And so I walked back into her room, way more calm. And I said to her, I have been holding this energy that it's my responsibility to keep you away from nicotine. And I realized that actually it's your responsibility. And I can promise you that your future self will not want to be addicted to nicotine, like 100%. I promise you that. But ultimately, you're the one that gets to decide. And I said, I'm going to intervene and interfere and interrupt when it comes into my consciousness that this is happening. I'm not going to give you back this vape, but I'm also going to let go of this feeling of this energy that I'm responsible for that, part of for that path. And so anyway, she was like, okay, kind of rolled her eyes at me as 15-year-olds do. And then, and then recently had a situation where she said, I need to give you something. And she pulled out a bottle of, it's called vape juice. It's nicotine juice, and another vape pen. And she said, I started using this past weekend and it's all I can think about. And I don't want to think about it. And so I need you to get rid of it for me.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this can be the result of that passing on of energetic responsibility. Like she chose for herself instead of me swooping in, interrupting. I didn't know she had that, obviously, or I would have swooped in and interrupted. But she got to be in the development of that internal guidance system, which I think is so powerful. And whether or not, it shows up again in the future, I don't have any control of, but I feel really good for her that she chose into that and had that experience of, and I feel good that our relationship is one that she can say, hey, I need you to get rid of this for me. And I'm not like, oh my God, what do you, blah, how could you, and like freaking out about it. Instead, I was so proud. I was so proud of her. And it seemed so mature and just responsible, even as, at the core of it, it's like, how could you be so irresponsible? But in the end, it's just a wild.
Well, that's beautiful. That's like such a perfect example. I use the visual a lot of like the two fists, right? The two fists reaching towards each other. And, when there's a conflict and we have to be able to take one of those fists away and say that we're on the same side.
Yeah.
We're on the same team. I'm on your team. really here? And really, that's what you did here. It's kind of like more than letting go. I love that you talk about this. It's about giving that responsibility to her, and how wonderfully fortunate you both were that she was able to make this mistake and have this, maybe it's potentially crappy thing happen to her when she was in the safety of your home. Like, we shouldn't be preventing our kids from making all the mistakes and making the road completely smooth for them. No, snowplow or whatever, because they need to make those mistakes. And she needed to have that tough time in high school and all that stuff where she was in a safe place to make a decision with your influence. And because you didn't push her away, you were able to give her that influence because she wasn't pushing against you. She wasn't pushing away from you. Like, you saying no, 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 even more might have driven her more to it, right?
Underground. Yeah, totally. I know about going underground. That's what I did in high school. I didn't talk to my parents about what I was doing.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I love that. Developing our kids' own internal guidance system. And I think that's really a guiding principle, right? Of like, kind of, let's step back and see the big picture and create that relationship that's a safe place to be like a great person and experiment with other stuff and all that stuff. And that's really what that unconditional love is. And I love that you were like, and I'm not going to be putting up with it in my house. I'm going to be taken away. Right. You just explained it very clearly. You were verbal about your own process, which I think we need to do more as parents, is just say, this is what is going on for me. And this is what I'm thinking. And so this is why I'm taking this action. So, I'm so glad you shared that story, Casey. That's really beautiful.
I hope that's okay with Rowan that I shared it. I'm sure it is. We'll find out. But and that's kind of going back to that comment of like, the messiness isn't an indication of like whether or not you're doing a good job. I mean, it's like, this isn't, I think it's so easy to take our kids' behavior personally.
Yeah.
And I still experience that with my own parents, so it's interesting.
They take your behavior personally?
Well, that they take our behavior, like, it's less about behavior, but maybe it's more about like lot in life, or, I mean, it's still this like, look at my amazing children and look at all the things. And I want them to be proud of me, of course, but I also, like, I'm separate. We are separate, and I don't think it's just tied to the early years or the teen years. I think it's this lifelong opportunity that we get to, like, get out of their lane, right? And allow for our kids to be who they are and just celebrate who they are. And even as they do really stupid things because they have a teenage brain, like, even in that, there's celebration. And
my teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, he says to, like, there's this one teaching where he says to imagine both of you 100 years from now, and then act from that place, right? And it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be in the ground. So let's act from that place. That's beautiful. Casey, I've really enjoyed talking to you today. I could probably talk to you a lot longer. We probably
me too.
A long time. I'm picturing the two of us.
Oh my gosh,
just having a big old conversation about it. Anyway, we can't. So I'm wondering, where can people find out more about what you're doing and listen to your podcast?
Well, the best place to go is joyfulcourage.com. That's the name of my business, Joyful Courage. And from there, I have a link to get to my book, which actually launches May 20th. It's in the pre-sale right now, and launches May 20th. And then my podcast is the Joyful Courage podcast. You can find it on iTunes/Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or just directly from my website. And I'm on Facebook. I have a business page on Facebook. I have a page. Well, I guess you don't call it a page. I don't know. Anyway, I'm on Instagram too. And I have two groups on Facebook. One is called Live and Love with Joyful Courage, where I play with the community. And it's a super just yummy, supportive, forwarding, solution-minded group of parents talking about all the things parenting. And then I realized that when you have teenagers, you don't necessarily want to hear from people who don't have teenagers yet. So I created another group specific for people with teenagers, and it's called Joyful Courage for Parents of Teens. Both groups are just really respectful and loving, and I'm super proud of those groups. So you can ask to join either or both of those as well. That's where you can find me.
Well, Casey, I really appreciate that, the work that you're doing. I appreciate you creating those safe spaces and creating the spaces for wonderful, authentic, great conversations, and knowing that, what you're living, what you're teaching, and what you're putting out there is creating wonderful ripple effects. So thank you so much for the work, and thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I could talk for another hour.
I love what Casey has to say about responsibility, giving our kids responsibility. And they need that in so many ways. They need that, progressive independence, more and more taking responsibility, doing it themselves, even as they get older. It's amazing how powerful that is. They're asking for it. We got to teach them how to do that and look at ourselves as these mentors and teachers to how to be more responsible and to take that. Now, remember, if you are listening right when this comes out, this week is the Mindful Parenting free live training. It's a 4-day live training. And we have already talked about why your kids don't listen to you, but you can probably catch the recording of that. We're going to be talking today, when this comes out, about how your instincts lead you astray. Tomorrow, the Orange Theory of Parenting. And Thursday, how to create cooperative kids without losing your temper. So this is all really awesome stuff. And I hope you will join us at mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. That's mindfulparentingcourse.com/free training. And it is all to build the excitement and to get everything going for launching the Mindful Parenting membership, which I'm so excited about. And this coming week will be the only time ever that you have a chance to join the membership with the founding members price, and stay with that as long as you are in the membership. So I'm so excited for you to check this out. It is going to be so powerful. There's already hundreds of amazing parents in the membership. And I know it's going to be supporting you and powerful at every stage of the parenting journey, because the teachings are really universal. They're so vital and important when my child was 3, and now when my oldest daughter now is 12, and I'm still practicing the communication skills and the mindfulness skills that are the foundation of that. They are still so powerful, and I continue to practice them, and I continue to help people. It's the power of these trainings are really great, and I'm so excited to be there, to have created a way for me to be there with you to help you implement it over time, which is, really where we need it. We need to ask those questions, right? So I hope you'll join us. You're only going to be able to get that founding members price just for 1 week. So don't wait, jump on it, because this is it. And that's all at mindfulparentingcourse.com. And it's for you, whether your kids are little, and I've even taught grandparents and moms of teens have really gotten a lot out of it, because they're really universal, a blueprint for creating more connected, cooperative relationships with your children. So if you want to learn how to transform yourself and want to learn how to transform your responses to create that thriving family life you've wanted, this is it. This is the week. Don't miss it. It's at mindfulparentingcourse.com. And as always, feel free to hit me up with any questions and show me. I love seeing on Instagram. It's so cool seeing some awesome Instagram friends sending me screenshots of them. They're listening to the podcast. So cool. But be sure to check out the Mindful Parenting membership, because it is a powerful, powerful community already. And we want you to be part of it too. We need to start to put some time and energy into like what, we say our families are most important, right? But how much time and energy do we put into helping ourselves like be that parent, right? It's so much more important than any of this stuff is this. And it's actually, the founding members price is pretty amazing. The monthly price is less than a cup of coffee a day. So don't miss it. Go check it out now. And I'm wishing you a beautiful week, my friend. And I'm wishing you some peace and some joy. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.